we got to talk about Israel, man. Of course, he's got his title fight coming up. He's going to be fighting Robert Whittaker again. A lot of people believe, like, since it's in neutral ground now, it's going to be a different fight. Robert Whittaker is going to come in with a different game plan. A lot of people are focusing on the wrestling aspect. And I remember Robert did an interview a couple of days ago talking about if it was that easy to take down Israel, then somebody would have already done it and beat him that way. You know what I mean? It's really fucking hard to take him down and keep him down.
It's really hard.
And you know best, man. Like, a lot of people
really
feel
hard.
like if that's the only path to victory, then is Robert kind of fucked? You know what I mean? Because it's hard to see someone outstriking Israel, right?
It's incredibly hard to see someone outstriking Israel. Just like we were talking about with Bloodline, like that amount of ring time, that amount of understanding of the game, like having that much experience within our sport is like absolutely incredible. It's like once you get to the UFC and you're in the top echelon, like let's say you've only ever fought, like myself, only ever fought like professional MMA, and then you fight your first guy of a certain style. Imagine it's like the first time you're fighting like a Dustin Poirier, like a pressure fighting boxer, southpaw. You're having to do that in the main event of a UFC. Like, that's the first time you've ever seen that. But you go back into like Israel's catalog, he can go back into his 100 kickboxing fights and be like, oh, I fought a heavy punching southpaw pressure fighter 8 times. Well, I can refer to my history of that and how I dealt with that and what I learned from those 8 times, take it into that main event. And so it's a whole different level of experience. And I would say that to like young fighters, because the game has completely evolved. Like, I debuted professional MMA. You just can't do that these days. Like, if you're a young fighter, get as much experience as you can fighting amateur MMA, fighting amateur boxing, fighting in jiu-jitsu tournaments, fighting in amateur kickboxing fights. Like, have as many fights as you possibly can so that your catalog of understanding of the sport is a mile long. So that when you get into these positions where you're fighting for opportunities at $1 million contracts, that you have all of that experience and can pick and choose from that database and get the result. Like, it's the proof is on the pudding. Like, look at how Israel has dominated his division.
So what do you see in this fight, though? It's a rematch, right? So Robert, he's a very cerebral guy. He's very talented, very skilled. So he's going to come with something different. I believe he'll come with something different. And Israel will, do what he needs to do. So what do you see in this fight? Like, how do you see it playing out? Yeah. I don't know. Like,
what from his last fight with Israel to this fight, like, what has he done different? And what has he shown in any of those other fights that he hadn't shown leading into the first fight?
He's just been more effective, I think, in his last couple of fights.
Just more effective with the same stuff that didn't
Exactly. One thing that sticks out to me that he didn't use, or he hasn't used in a long time, is the teep to the top of the knee. He used to do that. He used to use that against like Romero, and in his title fights, he used that a lot, but he just stopped doing it for some reason. And I thought, like, if you can do it, why would you not utilize that weapon? Do you understand?
Yeah,
that?
like from what like, I'm not part of the, like, I'm just a fighter. Like, I'm not part of the coaches' discussions or anything like that. But I've heard like Eugene talk about it on another interview, and he was like, they didn't even get to the game plan. Like, Israel, and he has that authority just to autonomously like change the game plan. And he saw something, the counter punching, the check hook, and he saw that hole in the game and threw that on the fly. So from what Eugene's saying, like, they didn't even implement the game plan in that fight. So they still have a completely unused game plan for Rob, which they hadn't used yet, which they have a great opportunity in the rematch to go back and revisit that game plan, which is all there. It would have been effective regardless. But, is he called an audible? and it works very well. But there's like a whole game plan that hasn't even been used yet. So yeah, we're excited to see how that preparation plays out.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like you said, he called the audible. If he didn't use the game plan, that means he has three more game plans, right? Like Eugene is a genius for a reason, and you guys fully trust in him for a reason. So, you know, I mean, like it's gonna be a crazy fight. We'll watch that fight. We're gonna be back next week and break down all the action and get Dan's reactions to his teammates' fights and whatever else went down during the show. Oh, Tai Tuivasa is back. He has a huge opportunity versus Derek Lewis, man. That's an insane fight. And you know Tai pretty well, right? He's one of those guys, right? He's one of those guys. He's like a fighter, right? He's a fighter's fighter.
Yeah, like he's kind of like you just want to punch the other guy's head off. Like it's a combat sports is incredibly, yeah, it's like a match of two polar opposites. Like it's both incredibly detailed. To me, it's like playing chess. You got a chessboard there, and then you're playing like just flipping a coin at the side. Like that's always there, or like a game of Snap. If you play Snap with cards, so it's like an incredibly simple game running simultaneously as an incredibly complex game, and it's like you need to be aware of both because you could be about to win the chess match, which has taken 5 hours, and then the other guy snap bang, and in one flip of a card has completely changed the course of the fight. But that's why it's why you crazy people watch this stupid sport, and it's why we are so entertained every single weekend.
Thank you guys for watching the video to the end. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. We got a lot of things in the works, so please stay tuned.